why are the dogs barking in the neighborhood? We all know Project Zomboid is an amazing game, but I bet the majority of you didn't know that Project Zomboid also has an absolutely amazing story to go with it. Sure, there might not be any quests, missions, or a story you get to experience. Rather, a bunch of lore that's up to you to uncover and pay attention to while the game unfolds around you. The way everything develops and unfolds as you go through the days, it is just told so well through TVs, radios, newspapers, magazines left behind. But that is what I want to talk about today. The lore of Earth during the Zomboid apocalypse and how everything goes down. So this is still an apocalypse, and even if not every single piece of knowledge and lore is fed to you on screen with journal pages and this and that, the world is still crumbling as you play. When starting up a new game, things start pretty early on, with the infection only affecting the Knox area in Kentucky. Give it a couple of in-game days and you can find info of the world's havoc, with most of the world and country not having a clue what's actually going down in Kentucky, but after an in-game month, if you survive, you are one of the few left. With all that being said and done though, I think we should just hop right into the first day of the apocalypse before ever even waking up. And the way I'll break this down is I will start from the first day where everything started to the last day of Earth pretty much. Now though, before getting to the first day of things, if you're enjoying this video and you want to see more like it, be sure to hit that like button and sub now to stay up to date. But the year is 1993. It is July 1st, and a stank stench has been in the air the past couple of days. Knox Communication takes the surrounding Knox country phone lines down for supposed maintenance, and life goes on as usual. July 4th rolls around, and Independence Day is celebrated as normal. Then July 6th is when things start to get weird. The military arrives in Kentucky, fencing off what's known as Knox Country, as air activity increases and individuals wearing hazmat suits are seen in the vicinity. The area known as the Exclusion Zone is cleared of public traffic, leaving some to sleep in cars or even walk to Louisville before midnight. And then, before midnight, a massive lightning storm hits Louisville without a drop of rain reported. The next couple days are calm but suspicious. Words of an unknown sickness spreading in the exclusion zone as military leave in the area is called off and they have to return to bases. The White House then makes a statement claiming military was dealing with security events and localized contamination, though they say it was no call for concern. The phone lines continued to be down, Knox Communication having no comment. And then comes July 9th, the day the player, you, wakes up and gets to start their journey through the apocalypse. It is 3 days after the Knox evacuation, dubbing the area the evacuation zone. It is going down in Kentucky, let's just say that, and the outside world has no clue. General John McGrew states that there is an illness in Kentucky, but there is no evidence of fatality, which we know is not true because we wake up on the same day and we're walking around getting attacked by dead people. Later in the day, gunshots are heard throughout the exclusion zone, and the president issues a statement claiming he has full faith in the control of the Knox Virus, which was dubbed now the Knox Virus. The next couple of days continue to ramp up. The CDC claims that the spread of the illness was slowing, but protesters are fighting around the country for more information on everything. Riots start to break out around the US in major cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. Citizens and even the UK Prime Minister begin criticizing the president for the complete lack of clarity on the Knox virus. Then at 6 p.m. on July 11th, the WHO advised that all non-military flights should be grounded, and against the airliners' wishes, they did comply. After this, the stock market ends up crashing, and the president calls it an economically unsound choice. Near the end of the day on the 11th, peacekeepers are deployed throughout the US, the exclusion zone boundaries are widened, and the quarantine camps begin to be abandoned. On July 12th, a life is taken in the riots that continue to occur in New York, as military is deployed in major cities to help the police. Around 8 in the morning, a civilian transmission is intercepted claiming that the conditions in the exclusion zone were much worse than believed, including possible sniper fire on civilians. Upon this news, the president issues a 6 p.m. curfew in all major cities, with military arriving later in the day as the curfew is put into enactment. Near the end of the day, a picture is leaked from the exclusion zone, causing extreme panic. It depicts a young man roaming the streets, bloodied, with limbs missing. Around him lay bodies filling the road. The days following the photo being leaked continued to grow panic and questions as things heated. Survivors who escaped the exclusion zone ended up being interviewed by the media. They tell of hundreds of infected committing extreme acts of violence and spreading the virus through bites, which we know that because this is July 12th, we woke up on the 9th. If you survive 3 days, you know by then the exclusion zone is f***ed by any other words to use. So the president continues to fail in keeping the public informed, and 38 different UN nations denounce the complete lack of clarity over the Knox event. General McGrew makes another statement declaring the infected are not deceased and that there was no need for further panic. Which, making it this far in the game, as I said, you know that ain't true. Shootouts begin in the exclusion zone between civilians and military. Along with this, infected begin hoarding at the borders and fences, and soon enough, fighting the undead and sounds of battle end up drawing in thousands of the infected to the borders of the exclusion zone. And by July 15th, failure to hold the infected back leads to the military retreating north. Civilians are left behind to band together with soldiers going against their evacuation, fighting small groups of infected at a time. Around 9 in the morning on the 15th, reports of the first people infected without being bitten begin to spread. Fear of possible infection causes some to beat and even shoot others within the camps. Then, near the end of the day on the 15th, it is confirmed that there is an airborne variant of the Knox virus. Before the end of the 15th, 95% of the camp survivors fall ill. Quarantines and executions even begin to take place within these camps. As July 16th rolls around, the location of the president is unknown, but a pre-recorded message airs from the White House. Citizens are advised not to panic and to stay inside. Most of Louisville now ill, thousands infected turning every hour. Around noon, hundreds of civilians are executed by the military as all bridges over the Ohio River are demolished. Moving into the 17th, things are quiet outside of the exclusion zone until around 8:30 in the morning, when it is confirmed that in Ohio, London, Somalia, South Korea, and Japan, there are cases of the Knox virus. A broadcast is put on repeat on US television of General McGrew addressing a second wave of the Knox virus, with dark days ahead for the few immune left in the exclusion zone. Speaking of immune, you, the player, are in fact immune, but only to the airborne variant. But the virus continues to breach new states and even countries. Berlin goes into defense mode, rejecting entry in. Then, the state of things in Great Britain is said to be worsening by the minute, pretty much, though other countries are not able to risk helping.
We're sorry.
The National Guard is then called to Rikers in New York. The Australian Prime Minister is visibly infected on TV. North Korea blows all bridges and shuts all roads from China. The Russian government evacuates Moscow. And on the 20th, the Japanese military blows Saigon Tunnel. This shows that countries are shutting themselves down to slow the spread into their boundaries, or slow it out. Then, around 1 p.m. on the 20th, the US military destroys an oil tanker thought to contain hundreds of infected. This causes the Los Angeles port to suffer severe damage from the debris, though with the days that follow, it shows that might not really matter. On July 22nd, Wilano Palace in Poland falls from fire, and soon after, surviving officials attempt to establish a French capital within Normandy. And by 12 p.m., the Knox virus can be found in every nation across the globe. The next few days consist of fighting and surviving. The Dutch government mass floods Amsterdam, millions of refugees gathered, mass spreading the virus, fires spread through the capital of Greenland, And on the 25th, cries of terror fade as the airwaves go silent. And on July 27th, billions are now dead and turned from the virus. And on the 28th, communication around the world is lost. All that is left are small groups of strangers struggling to survive. Those still alive are immune to the airborne variant, but still susceptible to the bites of the billions of undead around them. But yeah, everything started with a smell at the beginning of July, and within less than a month, the world fell. Reading through the timeline of events, it honestly feels realistic. Like, if there was an apocalypse, I could totally see everything on that list going down like that. But there's one question still to be answered. What exactly was the Knox virus, and where did it come from? So we know the outbreak started in Kentucky, with Louisville being the first to fall. Initially, infection spread by blood and saliva, but a week into the Knox event, things went airborne. Symptoms consisted of flu-like symptoms, worsening throughout a span of about 3 days before eventually succumbing and turning, with turning usually taking 1 hour after passing. Then when it comes to immunity, few of the world's survivors were immune to the airborne virus, the player being one of them, or a few of them, I guess. But immunity didn't stretch past airborne. Death and bites would still affect everyone. But on to where the virus actually came from, well, that no one knows. We know it fully hit between the 3rd and the 6th of July, but we don't know how it came along. Only rumors could be found pertaining to the origin of the virus. Some thought the foul smell was some sort of airborne start to everything, and if you smelt the stench at the beginning, you would eventually turn. Another belief was that there was an issue with Spiffo's meat, like an evolved form of mad cow disease. A darker thought was that God was punishing all of mankind for their many sins, also pointing at the different lightning and meteor storms that were happening around. But the last theory was that due to everything occurring so close to Independence Day, that the virus was some sort of terror attack, backfiring and finding its way out of US and into every other country. Other than those rumors though, the origin is still up in the air, and anyone's guess, really. But there are probably bits of lore here and there that I missed, and there were a couple of timeline events that did not affect things as much, and I wanted to save a little bit of time. But I do just love how in-depth the world story gets without getting too in-depth. The writers did a great job writing the world's downfall and developing it around you as you play. And I never even got into the weird story tutorial mode where you have to, like, off your wife. I don't know, the lore even goes further into that. I'm not going to talk about that here. If you want me to talk about the weird story mode tutorial, I can do a whole nother video on that. But I just love Project Zomboid's lore. It was all done really well. I hope in the future, maybe we'll learn where the virus came from. Who knows? But I feel like I'm rambling on. This video is longer than my usual vid, so I think I'm just going to wrap everything up there. But I do want to hear all of your thoughts on Project Zomboid's lore or story, along with this video in the comments now. I know you could have just read all of the information off a list pretty much like I did, but it's always easier to listen, and it's always better. But if you did enjoy this video and you want to see more, hit that like, and why not throw a sub the channel's way. And if you want to support the channel and more videos like this, along with getting your name at the end of every video, and getting some of those videos a couple of hours early, check out a membership to the channel now by pressing that little join button below. Lastly, if you heard any music that you enjoyed and you want to hear more of my own home-cooked jams, head over to BillyTheWhip on any music platform now. And with us here, I thank you all so much for the viewing, and thank you for 1,000 subs. It is insane. I will say it a million times, but you all deserve a fantastic day, and I hope you have the best day you can have.
Longer, the flames are growing, soon this track is going under. The flames growing, flow water is flowing, no paddle still rowing, can't reap without sowing, ain't no cut without mowing, ain't learning no tricks, holding my hand until I'm closing, but I'm rolling down this hill like the rocks I've been throwing.